Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom today, actually. Father, we just thank you. We just come before you, Yahuwah Elohim, and we praise your holy name, Father. I ask that you cause in each one of us, Father, the courage, the strength, the knowledge, the understanding to do all that we can to stand, and therefore, having done all that we can have to stand, keep on standing on your word, Father. I ask you, that in this time, that in this season that we see, they've always been there, the wiles of the enemy. But, Father, that we, Father, have discernment beyond all discernment, Father. We're in a war. The word says we're armies. We're soldiers in the armies of Yah, Father. And I ask that you would give us all that is needed to keep our eyes focused on that which we have been enlisted to do, as opposed to that which is of the world. Hallelujah. In your precious name, Yahuwah, the breath of life that came to rescue us. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So today I want to take a look at, hopefully this will come out loud enough. Generally I can talk louder than this. Hello. Hopefully this will come out loud enough, or if not, you might have to have speakers for your YouTube. I don't know. I'm going to start in Exodus 32, verse 17. And we'll just read it here in the English, because that's what we all know is English, right? Exodus 32. (17) And this is obviously, as most of us know, when Moshe went up on the mount to get the tablets, and they just couldn't wait for him, and he was bringing back down the tablets, of course, with the marriage covenant on it, the 10 Commands, and that were written with the finger of Elohim. And Yehoshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, and said to Moshe, "A noise of battle, a noise of war in the camp. Is that what we're about?" But he said, "It is not the sound of those who shout of might, nor is it the sound of those who cry out in weakness, but the sound of singing that I hear. Is that what's in the camp?" And it came to be, as soon as he came near the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moshe's displeasure burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. Oh, that's a picture, huh? Didn't get up the mountain. And he took the calf which they had made and burned it with fire, and ground it into powder, and scattered it on the face of the water, and made the children of Yisrael drink it. That would have been an interesting one. But here's what we're going to start with here. We're going to talk about the war, the battle that's in the camp. It was not a sound of war that Yehoshua heard, but a sound of dancing, sound of singing, people dancing. So we're just going to kind of go through some of these words that are in red here. Just kind of get a good picture on them, what they are in the Hebrew. And then we'll, go from scripture to scripture. So there is a noise. There's this noise. Yehoshua thinks he hears a noise of war in the camp. We do this on the e-sword. Of course, when I switch over to the King James Version, where we get the Strong's numbers, it's going to, you're going to see them nasty titles. He heard the noise. Pull this up a little higher for you. It's a kol, from an unused root meaning to call aloud, a voice or a sound. In the ancient Hebrew lexicon, it's 1426 JN. We don't need this up over here right now. Let's at least change it to something decent. That's better. I don't think we need that up at all, really. Okay. JN. Voice. The sound of the shepherd. Musical instrument, the wind, thunder, etc. At the child root here, we have the kuf, which is the same as the word, the kuf, the wa, and the lam, the ua, if you want. The concrete is voice, the call of the shepherd to the sheep who knew him by sound, because his sheep know his voice and they follow him. This was not the voice of those who were following the shepherd. When it came time to move, he, the shepherd, would call them, and they would quickly gather to him. At the two-letter parent root, we have the kuf and the lam. The action is to gather. The concrete is shepherd. The pictograph kuf is a picture of the sun at the horizon. Like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. And the gathering of the light. The lam is a picture of a shepherd's staff representing authority. Combine these mean gathering to the staff. When the shepherd called the sheep, they swiftly came to him. Hello. Is that what we're doing? The staff of the shepherd was his tool of authority. With it, he would direct, discipline, and protect the flock. So Joshua thought it was a noise of war in the camp. Those who were gathering and securing themselves to the shepherd, following his instruct. I know, because in Exodus 20 they knew, well, and it splits off in there. But the commands of Yah have been known since long before these people went to the mount. Noah wouldn't have known clean and unclean. They wouldn't have known to sacrifice anything that they sacrificed. They knew not to lie. They knew not to steal. These things were all well known to the people. We can see it in the scriptures aforetime. So Joshua says it's a noise of war. It's a noise of those who are gathering and securing themselves to the shepherd, coming against the enemy, because they hear the voice of the shepherd. They heard the voice of Yah. Who's your shepherd? Psalm 23. Yah is your shepherd. Yahuwah is your shepherd. He's the one who calls the sheep home. But it wasn't this noise of war, of them speaking that which would have been of them following Yah and coming against the enemy. Yahushua hears this noise of the people. Oh, there is a noise of war in the camp. So that's the noise. Right here. Of war. So what's this war? This war is H4421 in the Hebrew. The Strong says comes from 3898 in the sense of fighting a battle. That is an engagement. Generally war, that is warfare. We need not be singing and dancing. There's a war going on. War in the ancient Hebrew lexicon is 2305H1. And here it is. And of course, sometimes in the eSwords you don't get it all. And my lexicon is hiding out down here on the ground. If you have yours, go ahead and open to 2305. So you can see it. I think it just says battle, but let's look to be sure. It's war. That's all it says. War. It's malakama. Well, it comes from lechem. We all know that's bread. The action is to fight. The concrete is bread. Flour and water are mixed together and kneaded. Also, war in the sense of fighting with the bread when kneading. There should be a noise of war in the camp if somebody comes with any other teaching or idea, or I'll call it a theology, any other doctrine. When you're kneading the bread, you're kneading together flour and water. Sometimes there's oil in there. It just depends what kind of bread you're making. But this is water, flour, the grain and the water are mixed together and kneaded to form the air bubbles that are in it. And it has to, and you add the yeast if you're making a bread that rises, and you knead that through the entirety of the grain. There was not a noise of them following the shepherd and the grain being mixed, the grain being the people, which has been planted in the ground, the seed that was planted in the grain that comes up, whatever kind of grain. This was not the kneading of the grain with the water of the word mixed in. They were, how do I want to say it? It's like a kneading of the flesh, a kneading of what's in you, a kneading of the authority inside you to follow that which he has laid out, and you know that you've been told to do and you're supposed to do according to the Torah in the Torah, or what he's given you in your own personal life to follow. There's a war going on out here. So there's a fight that's going on of what is going to be kneaded into with the grain. Is it going to be the water of the word and the leaven of his teaching? Or is it going to be a twisted, dirty word, dirty water? I don't even call it bitter water because that's stagnant waters. And the yeast of something like the Sadducees and the Pharisees. So Joshua thinks he hears a noise. I probably got way ahead of myself there. Joshua says, oh, we heard this. He hears this noise of war in the camp. It's in the camp. This is supposed to be a beautiful place where the wall continues. The tents continue. We're supposed to war against the enemy in the camp. There oughtn't to be these tares amongst the wheat and these wolves in sheep's clothing that come in or that are already in. War in the camp. They didn't come from his camp. And he, Moshe, said, it is not the voice. It's not the voice of those who are gathering themselves and securing themselves to the shepherd that are shouting for mastery. They're not shouting to prevail as warriors in the family of heads, which is a root line about the barley harvest and the wheat harvest. Are you going to be in the family, the bait of heads, Resh? It's this one right here. Gaborah. Strength. Comes from this three-letter adopted root, Gam, Beit, Resh. Action is to prevail. Concrete is warrior. One of great strength, warrior or authority, master. When we see that scripture, it says even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. It's if they were warriors. It's if they were warriors in the family of heads. Little seed goes in the ground, little sprout comes up, then your stalk, then you become a full, mature stalk of wheat ready for the harvest. It is not the voice of them that shout that are ready to be harvested in the harvest. They were at the foot of the mount, hoard at the foot of the mount, because they received that which somebody else brought up, which was not of Yah. Person was in the camp. Doesn't always come from outside the camp. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's easier to see from outside the camp. This was inside the camp. In the camp. They were on their way. They were supposed to be warriors in the family of heads. They came out at what? At the barley time. Not saying that the calendar's about a barley harvest, and that's a whole nother ball of wax, but just a little piece. You can have the sun without barley. You can have the equinox without the barley, but you can't have the barley without the sun. One is a result of the other. That being aside, they were supposed to be warriors. They were supposed to be shouting as warriors in the family of heads. Answering. They shout as an answer. Somebody said, hey, let's do it this way. And Aaron said, okay, let me do that. That wasn't supposed to be his answer. Did Yah know it was going to be his answer? Of course Yah knew it was going to be his answer. Neither is it a voice of them that cry for being overcome. Overcome, something that is weak, failing, decayed, wasted away. He's supposed to be made strong in our weakness. It's not a cry from those that they didn't have any authority, that they couldn't prevail as warriors in the family of heads. These people were not overcoming them. Aaron could have said, I ain't doing that. Maybe somebody else would have done it and built a calf. Who knows? We don't know. These people were supposed to be warriors in the family of head, ready for the harvest. And they were not. Because it is a noise of them, this noise of them that sing. They're not being gathered unto securing themselves to the instruction of Yah, to wait on Moshe to come down with the marriage covenant. That's not what they're doing. This noise is them gathering and securing themselves to some other instruction, that lam is also a teaching. Lam can be teaching or instructions. It's to yoke to the shepherd. Some other thing came in, some other teaching. Let's do it this way, because we don't know what happened to Moshe. Because we ain't got no patience. What kind of society do we live in today? Microwave. Oh, wait. Millimeter wave. Oh, wait. Come on. All right. I need to not get started on that right off the get-go. But the noise of them that sing that I do hear. So these ones were supposed to be warriors, mastering, overcoming. The noise in the camp should have been that of war when this new teaching and this new idea, not that it was new, it came out of Egypt, but when this idea of what they were going to do that came from Egypt, the answer should have been no. It is not possible to deceive us because we are warriors in the family of heads. Hasatan may have the whole world deceived, but that all doesn't always mean everybody. Because there are some that it is not possible. Because they're warriors in the family of heads. Are we going to be those ones that are at that mount? To be warriors? Are we warriors in the family of heads? Are we going to be at that harvest? Are we that harvest that's going to be at the mount that's going to get taken this time? Are we busy singing and a dancing in the camp? Are we sitting on the surface? Okay, so the place I want to focus is in the war root line. Malachma. Isn't that fun to say? Comes from, of course, the lechem, which is an adopted root, which Benner says comes from the het mem. Okay, I didn't go back that far to look at that. It's the cheese bag root line. If you want to go look at it, separating of the whey and the curds. Anyway, so here we have our root line here. Again, same thing, war. So now I want to go to the Theological Word Book. If you have one. Oh, did I show you Benner's book if you don't have it? If you don't have this book, yeah. That book. Absolutely amazing work. Lexicon of all lexicons that I've seen in the Hebrew. Okay, Theological Word Book. Looks like this. It is a Christian-based book. They are Christians. They take all these words and they put them to the ideas that are in these different scriptures. And actually, for it being that kind of book, they do a really good job. They just do. I don't recommend many books like that, but I would recommend this one. So if you have it, page 11, and you'll see why here in a minute. Oh, number 1104. Excuse me. Page 476 and 477. The Theological Word Book number is 1104. So it's got this kind of split up because they do it by a 3-letter parent root. So it's got it split up into 2 pieces. One is the war part and one is the bread part. Ooh, let me do that again. Watch. Sylvia. One is the war part and one is the bread part. Okay. I'm just going to read to you out of this book. And they give scripture reference after scripture reference after scripture reference for each of the ideas that I'm going to speak of. I am not going to read all these scripture references. If you need a picture of this, email me or like our page on Facebook, hand to the PLOUGH. And I'll send you a picture of what's in the book if you don't have the book. But I would highly advise ordering the book. I do have an email. I don't check it very often. See, I don't even know what email goes to this. It's hand to the PLOUGH 8, the number 8 at gmail.com. Okay. All right. So we're talking about this war part of the root line, and then we'll talk about the bread part of the root line. The most significant usages of the verb laham, which occurs, oh, you guys don't need to see me, 171 times, pertains to Yahuwah's role in Israel's wars. Why? Because Yahuwah comes to rescue us. There is no other rescuer. There is no other salvation. There is no other name but Yahuwah saves, by which we may be saved. There's no other name besides Yahuwah. Yahuwah came to rescue us, by which we must be saved. There is none. When Elohim calls Yisrael to arms against an enemy, it is because of the enemy's moral degradation. Just look around. Really? In every way, shape, and form. Moral degradation on every level to Yahuwah's people everywhere. In such conflicts, it is Yahuwah who does battle on Yisrael's behalf. Our weapons are not fleshly. Am I saying there was never a battle where they didn't use a sword or a knife or anything like that? I'm not. We're talking about fighting from a spiritual sense and allowing him to do the battle which lays before us by whichever implement he does or does not tell us to employ. In doing so, Yahuwah often calls into his service not only Yisrael, but also the elements of nature. Nevertheless, the Israelites must also join in the battle and fight with Yahuwah. Well, what is endurance till the end? If it's not to be that grain that's being kneaded with the water of the word, the leaven's in there to make sure you're being taught exactly what that water is, what it means. It's a fight. It's a fight even in the camp. We're not even talking outside of the camp. And look at outside of the camp today. Nasty. On every level. Dirty, muddy water. Leaven that will cause you to rise to death and not rise to life. We are part of the battle. He does the battle. He's won the war. But that doesn't mean there's not fighting we have to do as we endure until the end. Endure what? Hardships, suffering. People trying to teach the wrong thing. Okay, just stop. Even though their land has been deeded to them as an inheritance, they must conquer it in battle. Bauernfeind comments, nevertheless, neither their equipment nor their numbers, because we're a small remnant, turned the scale. The remnant is small, the flock is little for the first resurrection, and that's just the way that it is. It was Yahuwah who went before them, gave them courage, and took it from their foes by miracles and by terror. To him and him alone belong the praise. To him and him alone belong the praise, because Yahuwah, who came to rescue us, Yahusha, is the first fruit that goes before us. He's the one that goes before them in battle. He's the one that went before them at the Red Sea, shows us what we need to do. He did it for the love of his bride, how to walk it out, so that we might rise as first fruits, just as he rose as the first fruit. And he battles before us today. He already won the war. It's already over. No matter what them nasty people say out there. And even in the camp, whatever these tares and these wolves are trying to teach, it's over. If they tell you that they're following the commands of Yah and they teach to follow the commands of Yah, just one example, and they're working on Shabbat, what, are you jumping between two opinions? If you're going to serve Yahuwah, serve Yahuwah. And if you're going to serve Baal, then serve Baal. Be hot or cold. Israel constituted the armies of Yahuwah, whose troops had to be holy. Oh, right? Be ye holy as I am holy. Be ye perfect as I am perfect. Be ye mature. Be mature what? A mature full stalk of wheat that's ready for the harvest. Are you mature? He was. I mean, he always was. Did he have to grow up in a physical body? Well, of course. We know that. It's a picture for us. Everything he's given us is a picture for us. Even his time wrapped in the flesh, walking on the earth, is a picture for us. Even the Israelites' weapons and campgrounds had to be holy if Yahuwah was to camp with them. Get the dung out of the camp. Take your dung out of the camp. If it had not been Yahuwah who was on our side when men rose up against us, then they would have swallowed us up alive. Right? Just like the enemy's going to spew that water out. But the earth is going to swallow it up. They want to swallow us up alive so that we do not live. Fight against those who fight against me, O Yahuwah. Because if they hated him, they're going to hate you. But Israel's trust must be in Yahuwah, warned the prophets, not in horses, chariots, weapons, or men. You really trust what these people are telling you? Outside the camp? We need to just look inside the camp and make sure that we're being Bereans and able to trust what people are telling us inside the camp. You got these people out there telling you all kinds of stuff. They don't even believe in Yahuwah. They don't even love Yah. They don't keep the Shabbat. They don't eat clean. And yet we think they're doing us a favor. And I'm not saying that some of them haven't in the past. He had Cyrus do something for him. But that was ordained by Yah. We're in another time frame now. If you can't see that, send me an email. There is yet coming, maybe I'm going to read this too. Israel itself was subject to attack from Elohim if they flaunted his laws and indulged in sin, right? Because judgment begins with the house of Elohim. Amos 2:14-16 comes very close to describing all-out warfare against Israel. Isaiah 63:10 states explicitly that when the Israelites rebelled against the Ruach HaKodesh, Yahuwah became their enemy and fought against them. Why? Because they received another word, another teaching, another doctrine, and they passed it around amongst themselves. That caused them to sin. The flesh said, oh, that sounds good. Every wind and wave of doctrine. It's a word game. And if you think that what's going on up there right now isn't a word game, you're simply wrong. They're playing a word game. It's a psy-op. There is a yet coming, and it's in the camp too. Don't mistake, he's got wolves in sheep's clothing and tares amongst the wheat. I may never get off this page. There is yet coming a time when Elohim will fight once more. What? With the sword of his mouth, which is what? Which is the word. What? Which is everything from the El to the Ta in its proper order. You ain't following that teaching, that word, in that proper order. Done. Revelation, done. This time against all the nations which have attacked Yisrael. Yahuwah has decreed the death of the beast and the end of his power. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Guess what, you nasties? You're going down. You're going down. No matter what kind of persecution and hardship we have to suffer, the enemy is going to be taken out and consumed by the sword of his mouth and thrown into the lake of fire. Yahuwah will personally put on the I wasn't going to read this. All right. Yahuwah will personally put on the breastplate of righteousness, helmet of salvation, suit of vengeance, and coat of zeal as he judges the enemies from the nations, until the fear of him is spread from the east to the west. Okay, that was kind of the basis of the root line. How about that for a war? We are at a war. It ought to be the noise of war. If something is coming against the instructions, the spirit, the Torah, that which Yahuwah has given us, there'd be a noise of war in the camp, which leads to shalom, to peace. Should it constantly be a war? I don't know. I mean, we get to have peace. Today is Shabbat, but yet the war still goes on. Wartime and peacetime. There's a time for everything under the sun, Stephanie. Under the sun. Okay. Milchama. Battle or war? Of the 319 occurrences of this noun, our interest, which is in the book, centers on the battles in which Yahuwah was involved. While much has been made of the concept of holy war, popularized by von Rad, the reserved men like A. Weiser must be raised. There is greater breadth to the concept than simply the fulfillment of ancient sacral ordinance. It's a big, huge, it's not just a sacrificial rite. Way more to it than that. What these two said about it, I don't know. I wasn't going to read that paragraph. True, Yahuwah is a man of war, Exodus 15:3, and his name, Yahuwah Zavot, Yahuwah of hosts, does on occasion reflect the fact that he is commander-in-chief of Israel's armies. We have been enlisted as soldiers in the army of Yahuwah. We should not be focused on the things and the ways of this world in order to please him that enlisted us. David acknowledged that Yahuwah saves not with sword or spear, for the battle is Yahuwah's. Okay. Not always. I mean, it's always him. It's always the spirit behind it. Yisrael also fought defensive wars and offensive wars, right? Just before Yahuwah makes wars to cease, Psalm 46:9, and forever destroys the implements of war, the nations shall raise their arms against Israel and their Messiah, but to no avail. Right? Psalm 2, right? They're all taking counsel against Yahuwah and him as the Messiah that has already come. The kings take counsel together. Psalm 2, go read it. Unbelievable. Isn't that beautiful? Even in Revelation, all these plagues are going to happen and they're going to shake their fists and they're still not going to repent. Are we? Because judgment begins with the house of Elohim. Are we? I speak to myself on things that come up just as much as the next guy down the road. Why run the race if you're going to exclude yourself from receiving the prize? All right, so now I'm going to read out of this book. I'm going to read about this section in here, about the bread. This noun occurs, well, it's both of these, the noun and the verb, because, they were diagramming sentences in the wilderness. This noun occurs 296 times in the Old Testament. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every proceeding from the mouth of Yahuwah. Man is not what he eats in a physical sense. Not that you shouldn't have food, not that you shouldn't eat. And kind of, we are what we eat. If you eat a Cheeto, you're going to be a Cheeto. Not that that's even clean. If you eat a pig, you're going to be unclean. If you eat fruits and vegetables and seeds and nuts and, if you eat a little meat, you're great, So man does not live by the bread alone, but by every proceeding from the mouth of Yahusha. So the bread that rises is the Word himself. There's churchianity and many other forms of religions that think, oh, he rose and now I can just do whatever I want. Well, just because the bread rose doesn't mean you don't have to live by every proceeding that comes from the mouth of Yahuwah, because that's who he was. That's who he was. He was every proceeding from the mouth of Yahuwah. It was Yahuwah himself. Just like when your word comes out of your mouth, it's your word. Who's responsible for it? Does it return void? Yet all food is the gift of Yahuwah. Food, not things that aren't food. Food. And bread, which strengthens man's heart. Because the seed for the grain is planted in the heart, and it grows to maturity so that it's ready to be harvested. Right? This bread strengthens, and bread which strengthens the heart. You don't need a piece of bread and it makes your heart strong. It's a picture. It's a picture. Are you being needed? Yes, he gives food to all flesh, to the hungry, and to the beasts and the young ravens. Elohim himself even instructs man in the art and principles of agriculture. How to prepare the ground, right? Is the soil of your heart ready for the seed? How to sow the seed in rows, straight rows, crooked rows. Or to broadcast other seeds. And how to harvest each after patiently waiting the appointed number of days. Man must never presume that this staff on which he leans will always be available, regardless of how he acts. Elohim can and did break the whole staff of bread. This was the principle announced by Moshe in Leviticus 26:26. Elohim would send increasingly severe judgments on any nation that refused to walk in righteousness before he brought the ultimate calamity. Even worse than a famine of bread is a famine of the word of Elohim. It's the severe judgment that's going to come on the nations. It's going to be an ultimate calamity in the end. There will be those that have been worked through with the leaven and the twisted word that will rise to death, and those that will have been worked through and kneaded, fed from the bread of life. The grain has been worked through with the living water of the word, and the leaven that's in there is it being taught in its correct and proper manner that will rise to life. First fruits that will rise to life. They will be the grain for the harvest that will rise to life. The Pentecost wave loaves were to be baked with leaven. So leaven cannot always be a principle of evil. That is correct. The bread of wickedness, or the bread of deceit, is always obtained by wrong and results in bitterness of life. Bitter waters. That's where that bitterness comes from. It's a bitter water. No better is the bread of adversity, which spells times of persecution, or the bread eaten in secret with the seductress. For the act of adultery will poison a man's whole life. Why? Because the seductress came with another word, she twisted the word and taught it the way that she wanted to teach it. Don't eat that bread with her. There is a better day coming when Elohim will restore the bread and grain to its creation state. Okay, is that a great book? That's a lot on this root line. That's not all they had on this root line, but that's quite a bit. What a beautiful picture. All right. Second Corinthians 10. 1 through 6. And I, Shaul, myself, appeal to you through the meekness, because the meek shall inherit the earth, and the gentleness of Messiah. Is he coming here to rule and reign? When the earth is circumcised by fire, in the end, the heavens roll up like a scroll. He's here to rule and reign. He's here to rule and reign during the millennial reign. I who am indeed lowly, humble, when face to face with you, but bold toward you when absent. Maybe because of the thorn in his side and what he had done. Maybe that face to face, I don't know. I mean, I could see that in my own life. But I pray that when I am present, I might not be bold with that bravery by which I think to be bold against some who reckon us as if we walked according to the flesh. There's a way in which you should talk to people, even in being bold. People inside and people outside the camp. There's a way in which you should talk to people. Should you not be bold? Of course you should be bold. Is there a time to be meek in meekness and respect? Of course there is. And here's the part I want to get to. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not fight according to the flesh. For the weapons we war with are not fleshly, but mighty in Elohim for throwing down strongholds. We're at war. They're not fleshly. You're not going to war in the flesh. It's not going to work to fight a spiritual. It's not going to work to fight an invisible enemy. How about that? The carnal mind does not receive the things of the Spirit. We are not fighting a carnal war. I mean, is there a war going on out here that's in the flesh? Of course it is. But we're quote unquote fighting an invisible enemy. And we've always been in fighting this. Our weapons are not fleshly for the pulling down of these strongholds that would try to come in and twist the word with a different doctrine and a different teaching. Because really this place is not our home. We need to fight the good fight. For the weapons of our warfare are not fleshly, but mighty in Elohim. They're mighty in Elohim. Are we warriors in the family of heads? Are we mighty in Elohim as Yahuwah Zevaot, the commander of the armies? For overthrowing strongholds, overthrowing reasonings. What? You got a stronghold and they're going to try and reason with you. All right, I don't even know what reasoning? No put out a word. A little teaching in there. From the world or from in the camp. Either one. Start to reason with that? Stop it. Be a Berean. Not saying don't be a Berean. And every high matter that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim. How do you get the knowledge of Elohim? From his teaching, from his word, from his Torah, for following it, by listening to those that have gone aforetime. Nobody said you shouldn't listen to anybody else. If we didn't have to listen to nobody else, we wouldn't need to read this. We wouldn't need to listen to what the prophets had to say. Come on. Taking captive every thought to make it obedient to the Messiah. So here comes the word in a twisted teaching, trying to get you to reason with it. Take it captive to Elohim, trying to get you to sin. First you have to get the different word. It's a different teaching, a different thing than he's taught, a different command, a different way of doing it than is okay with him. That thought has to be taken captive. You need to press yourself to the tent. It's called shub. And make it obedient to the Messiah, to what he did, to what he's told us to do, to the word that he's given us, to the teaching that he's laid out before us. What did Messiah use when he was in the wilderness and the enemy was tempting him? The word. The things that were taught in the word. And what did the enemy use? The things that were taught in the word. Twisted it. The leaven, gonna leaven the whole lump of you and those around you. Because I don't know how many people brought in the idea of having a calf, or went to Aaron and said they needed something beside Moshe or whatever. I don't know how many people brought that idea in. But it came from somewhere. Was it two people who got together, had the same idea? Was it one person brought it in? I don't know. And being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is complete. So you don't actually punish the disobedience until we've obeyed, until we get back on track with the word and what it's taught us to do. We've taken those thoughts captive, pressed ourselves back to the tent, captive unto what Messiah's taught us to do in obedience. And when we do that obedience, we've punished the disobedience. Judgment begins with the house of Elohim. We have a fight that we're fighting. It's all a word game. It is not in the flesh. Am I saying nothing ever happens in the flesh? No, of course not. Of course it does. There's real wars out there all the time. There were real wars in the scripture. It's not what we're talking about. Ephesians 6:16 and 17. For the weapons we fight with are not fleshly. And I didn't want to mention every weapon. I wasn't going into a study of the armor. Above all, having taken up the shield of belief, which protects your heart. With which you shall have power to quench all the burning arrows of the wicked one. What are those exactly? What are those burning arrows of the wicked one? What is the arrows of the wicked one? I think it's Psalm 63. It's another word trying to give you another teaching, trying to get in there to your heart, trying to corrupt the seed, which is looking for the day to be made incorruptible. Take also the helmet of deliverance, the helmet of Shua, the helmet of salvation. So when that reasoning comes in your thoughts, you've already got on the helmet of deliverance. Taking that one captive to the one who came and delivered me, Yahuwah Elohim. And the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. There's your offensive weapon. When that other teaching of a twisted word comes in, some other leaven, we already have what he's taught. Take it captive. 1 Timothy 6. And don't believe anything these nasty people up there at the top are telling you. They are lying to you. It is all a game. It is all a word game. And when people in the camp tell you something, we need to dig deep before we go along with it. 1 Timothy 6:11. All kinds of stuff he told him in chapter 6, to flee from. All kinds of stuff above it from verses 1 to 10. You can go back and read it. We all know the things we should flee from for the most part. Are we all learning every day? Of course we are. Another layer of the proverbial onion. Fight the good fight of belief. Let's pull that up. Nah, It don't matter. Because one of the, you see up here, not only are we at this war, but we are fighting. Remember how it said he needs, the Israel, what's in the battle? He's the leader, he's the commander, he's already overcome, but that doesn't mean you don't need to endure until the end and fight the good fight. Fight the good fight of belief. Eat the bread with the kingdom leaven that is worked through it. Allow yourself to be kneaded with the water of the pure word in its proper, in the pure word. And the leaven of the kingdom to be kneaded throughout you. And who was the first fruit that went? The bread of life? He was. Eat the bread with the kingdom leaven in it. Fight for the truth. Pursue righteousness. Righteousness comes from following the truth, following the true teaching. Reverence. Reverence of Yahuwah comes from following the truth, the leaven of the true teaching, not the leaven of the Sadducees and Pharisees, not the leaven of wickedness. It's another teaching. That's not even it. It's the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, or some other teaching that's out there, some other word that's come to make you doubt. Pursue belief. Belief is an action. How are you going to pursue what you believe if you don't even recognize what you're being taught? The leaven that has to be worked through in that bread with the proper teaching of the word, of the water that's being mixed with the grain. You can't walk it out if you don't have that truth. Pursue love. Well, how are you going to teach anybody else anything in love if you don't have it yourself? How are you going to love him? How are you going to be obedient to him? Loving him. Pursue endurance. Endurance in what? Enduring until the end in the army of Yahuwah Messiah. Pursue meekness, because the meek inherit the earth. If you're going to inherit the earth at the end, or be in the rain when it's here, and the earth is circumcised, and everything happens on the earth, the meek inherit the earth. How are you going to do that with the wrong teaching? If the grain is not mixed with the water of his word and taught in its proper order and its proper manner, you're not going to inherit the earth. Right, Sylvia?
Right.
Fight the good fight of belief. Our weapons are not fleshly. Fight the good fight of walking this thing out with the weapon that he has given us, which is the sword, which is his word, which needs to be taught with the leaven mixed in of the proper teaching, the leaven of the kingdom. Lay hold on everlasting life, because that's going to cause you to rise to everlasting life, like a loaf of bread that's got the right leaven in it. You have the leaven of the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Where are you going to rise to? Death. On an outside note, if you have the leaven of all these other things going on out here that's being worked through you, it's not going to cause you to rise to life. It's going to make you nuts. To which you were also called and have confessed the good confession before many witnesses. In the sight of Elohim, who gives life to all, because he rose first. He was the first fruit that rose. He was the bread of life that rose. Are we going to rise after him? And also even the Messiah, because Yahusha, who came to rescue you, the anointed King of Kings. Who's your king? The greatest prophet that planted the seed in the earth from the very beginning. Who was that? The master of masters, the high priest, sacrificed first in the garden, who witnessed the good confession before Pontius Pilate. I charge you. that you guard the commands, the teachings that have been taught, so you can spotlessly, blamelessly. Who's that? A mature bride. Until the appearing of our Master, Yahushua Messiah, which in his own season he shall reveal. He's going to be revealed. And we're supposed to be made like him according to 1 John chapter 3. Are we going to rise after him? Are we pursuing those things that are just like him? Righteousness, reverence, belief, love, endurance, and meekness? Are we following those things which he taught us? Those are not the only things. The blessed and only ruler. How many? Only ruler. The sovereign of sovereigns. One chi. The master of masters. One chi. Who alone has immortality, dwelling in unapproachable light, whom no one has seen or is able to see. Wait a minute. Abraham saw him. Samson's mama saw him. People saw him when he was here. He was with us. You just can't see him in his pureness. Not in this nasty, dirty flesh. To whom be respect and everlasting light. Amen. Fight the good fight. And there's the line again. There it is. We just got done looking at it. Exodus 15 spoke in the Theological Word Book about Yahuwah being a man of battle. So let's go look at that. Because he is the man of battle. He does fight the war. He has overcome and he's already overcome. So then Moshe, who according to Psalms was a priest. What kind of priest was he? A priest after the King of Kings, the Master of Master, a priest in the order of the King of Righteousness. And they were all supposed to be priests, according to, I think it's Exodus 19, 16 or 19. Now I gotta look, 19, I think. Then Moshe and the children of Yisrael sang this song to Yahuwah, and spoke, saying, I sing to Yahuwah. They're not having the noise of singing and dancing. Singing to Yahuwah. For he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. And there's a lot to say there. Yahuwah is my strength. Let's pull that up. Forgive the foul names on the screen. Boy, if somebody knows the where there's a sacred name scripture to put into eSword, that would just, please, I'd love to know. Yahuwah is my strength. 1352 JN in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon. Strength. And the action is to gather. The abstract is strong. Who is going to gather you in that day? There's only one. A strong refuge is a place for making a firm and fierce stand. Having done all therefore to stand in Yahuwah Elohim, and that which he has commanded, and the proper teaching of that which he has commanded, which is the word itself, which is everything from the El to the Tau, which should be mixed in with the grain, stand. Two-letter root, Ayin Zion. The action is bold. What did you just read? To be bold. But know how to talk to people in your boldness. There is a way in which you talk to people. The abstract is strong. The pictograph Ayin is a picture of the eye representing knowing. The Zion is a picture of a cutting implement. Combine these mean know a weapon? Do we know our weapon? Do we know? Are we intimate with that which will secure us to our weapon? Allow us to fight the good fight. Allow us to be a Berean in the family of heads and prevail. That when the leaven of something else comes to teach us a twisted word, we recognize it immediately. Who is our weapon? It just said, Yahuwah is our strength. Yahuwah is our weapon. The word, the L to the Ta in its proper order, and what it teaches, who is him himself, is our weapon. Yah is my strength and my song. E2. Music, of course, we've got all kinds of stuff going on in this adopted root line. The sound from a musical instrument where the string is plucked or the singing that accompanies it. Also, the plucking of fruit from a vine or a branch. What? He is the fruit of the vine from where grapes are plucked. His word, which is the blue, which is the commands, which is the teaching of everything he taught, which is the leaven of the kingdom, and the song, which represents the grapes that are plucked, which is the red that comes from the red of the blood of the wine. The blue and the red make purple, which is royalty. Are we kings and priests under our king? And he has become my deliverance, my Shah, my Shua, my Shah, my Yahusha. Yahuwah, who came to rescue you, Yahusha, who came to rescue you, is your strength and your song. Blue and red make purple. Do you have the testimony of Yahusha Messiah in its fullness, that it was him who came to rescue and shed his blood, Acts 20:28? Red. Do you know the teachings and the proper order of the L to the Ta that's in the word, the commands, the blue, so that you can be purple, royalty? You can go see Sister Stephanie's channel out there. It's here on this channel. She's the only other one I recommend on this channel, and she's got the blue and the red and the purple, and you get much more insight into that than I could ever give you. He is my El. Praise Yah. And I praise him. I wonder what that word is. Wait a minute, we gotta look. He is my El, and I will prepare him a habitation. Who's inhabiting you? Who's the authority that's in your heart? It's the authority that's inside. Elohim of my father, I exalt him. Yahuwah is a man of battle. He's an Anish of battle, the husband. Anish is also husband, right here. Some people say it's Ish. I think that's the right word. We better go look it up. 15:3. In the ancient Hebrew lexicon. Here we have Ish. Here we have Anish. 1,639 times. Somebody, anyway. That's also the word for husband. Yahuwah is a man, is a husband of battle. Who's he battling for? his bride. Who was he battling for in the wilderness? Who was the fight against the enemy? Why? For the love of his bride. Allowed himself to be driven into the wilderness for the love of his bride and to show us how to fight the fight, to win the war. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yahuwah is his name. Yahuwah. He's all breath. He is the wind. He is the ruach. There is no hard consonant sound in his name. He has cast Pharaoh and his chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. Them going through that was like a type of immersion. And we come through that immersion in the water and are risen to new creation. Who's chasing us now? You know it. The depths covered them, and they went down to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has become great in power. Who's the right hand of power, strength, and authority? It's his word and what he breathed. It exists as great in power. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has crushed the enemy. The word, the sword, the seed, in its proper order, crushes and takes out the enemy every time. But we must have been taught it properly in order for it to do its work, and we must be punishing disobedience with our obedience. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. Cast your thoughts to him. Pull down those strongholds. You sent forth your wrath. It consumed them like stubble. Really? It's going to happen in the end. That stubble is going to be consumed. And with the wind of your nostrils, with the ruach, I'm going to assume that's what that is, of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. Somebody doesn't want you to keep Shabbat. Twice today. 2 times. What time is it? 10 o'clock in the morning on Shabbat. 2 times already. Good grief. The flood stood like a wall. The depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. And why were they coming after him? Well, why wouldn't they let him go in the first place? They wouldn't listen to the words of Pharaoh. Pharaoh wouldn't listen to the words of Yah, keeping them in bitter bondage. And when he had to listen to the word of Yah, well, he was compelled to let them go, or however that looks for you. He didn't like it. And he's coming after us. The enemy said, I pursue, I overtake. Why? Because his whole job is to steal, to kill, and destroy. Wants to bring you back into that bitter bondage. Let you go. For a moment, just like he said, I'm coming back to test Yahusha for at an opportune time. His whole job is to steal, kill, and destroy. It's a war, it's a battle. I overtake, I divide the spoil. My being is satisfied on them. He'd be real satisfied with keeping you from the first resurrection. because he won't be here for the millennial reign up till the very, very end when he gets let loose for a little while. He'd be real happy right now with keeping you from that first resurrection. I draw out my sword, my hand destroys them. Was it a physical sword? Well, okay, they had swords, but it's also a picture of the arrows, the swords of the word that's a twisted word. My hand destroys them. You did blow with your wind, your ruach, your breath. The sea covered them. They sank like lead into the mighty waters. Just like the water that tries to go swallow up the bride as she heads into the wilderness, the earth swallowed it up. Who is like you, O Yahuwah, among the mighty ones? He is the master of masters. Who is like you, great in set apartness, awesome in praises, working wonders? A great act of judgment. Wonders. You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. Right? Just like it was going to in Revelation. In your loving commitment, you led the people to whom you have redeemed. Is he leading you? Are you allowing him to lead you? Are you fighting the good, are we fighting the good fight? Are we taking every thought captive? Pulling down strongholds? Overcoming reasonings? With his weapon, not fleshly weapons? In your loving commitment, you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you guided them to your set-apart dwelling. So they were headed to the mount. They got to the mount. He took the enemy out. They went through a type of immersion so they could get to the mount. And what happened when they got there? They listened to another word. They received another quote-unquote teaching, instruction. Well, we can't wait. Which caused them to sin. And who was left afterwards? Yeah, right? Don't tell anybody I coughed. Whoever is on Yah's side, come to me. And that would be the picture of the priesthood. Whoever is on Yah's side, come to him. Come to him. He's overcome. John 15. Starting at verse 9. Yahuwah, who came to save, to rescue, Shua, Yahusha, Emmanuel, Elohim with us, is the one who came to deliver. He's the one who came to save. As the Father loves his word, wrapped himself in that word as flesh to show us how to walk it out in perfection, was the fullness of Elohim bodily. As the Father loves his word, the word loves when the word that the Father breathed, the word that the Father breathed causes the Father to love you for the love of his bride. He doesn't love the sin and the sin that's going on. He loves you because the Father loves his word. If you stay in his love If you guard my commands, you stay in my love. The commands is the word, is everything from the L to the Ta. The water that's needed with the grain, with the leaven of the proper way to teach it and following of the commands because you've been taught correctly. Stay in that love. He loves it when you love his word because his word is him. There's only one. The King of Kings. The queen doesn't love two different people. Well, maybe she does. Well, let me not say that. Well, we're living in a pretty wicked society. The bride of Messiah, let me put it that way, doesn't love two different people. It's impossible. She loves him and his word. They're both one. Even as I have guarded my Father's commands, the flesh that was wrapped with Elohim bodily on the inside guarded that which was breathed, which was the word itself, which he wrapped himself in, and stay in his love. These I have spoken to you, so that my joy might be in you. The joy of what? The joy of being obedient to the word because you fought the good fight, because you've taken all disobedience and punished it with obedience, and that your joy might be complete. Why? Because now you've been obedient to the word and you're going to be in the first fruits that rises on that day. This is my command, that you love one another. We're going to teach each other that? Or are we going to teach some other word? We're going to put a little bit of the leaven of the Sadducees and the Pharisees in there? Come on. Maybe we'll throw in a little bit of this other garbage that's going around and say, yay, you at the top up there. Okay. As I have loved you, he loved his bride. He came for the love of his bride. He was led and driven into the wilderness for the love of his bride. For the love of his bride, he showed her how to walk it out. Are we going to do something different? No one has greater love than this, that he should lay down his life for his friends. The ultimate sacrifice of war, laying down your life for your friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you, if you follow the teachings that have been brought forth, that which I've showed you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. It doesn't mean we're not servants. It's a whole other study. But I have called you friends, for all which I heard from my Father I have made known to you, because the flesh was here. The word was made flesh. It was the fullness of Elohim bodily. Spoke what the Father spoke, because it was the fullness of Elohim, because he was the fullness of Elohim bodily. You did not choose me. We don't choose. We can choose to obey. But I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, and the fact that you know that Yahuwah came to rescue you and you're obeying his commands and you have the testimony of him, he's going to give it to you. Why? Because you're not going to ask amiss, that you might spend it on yourself. These I command you so that you love one another. Love is in the truth. There's a way in which you should speak to people, but love is in the truth. And if the world hates you, if it turns from you, know that it hated me before you. The seed of the enemy will turn from you like that. Draw you in. Oh, let me do that again. Turn like that on you. Sonne. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, for that reason the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they shall persecute you too. If you are following the teachings, if you are the grain that is being kneaded, is your flesh being kneaded? If you are the grain who is being kneaded with the water of the pure word, and the leaven of the kingdom, you shall be persecuted like we have never seen before. I would like to have the name of Yahuwah written on my forehead. If they have guarded my word, they would guard yours too. What word? The teaching of the leaven of the kingdom. The pureness of the word itself. So the grain can grow up and be a full stalk of wheat and can rise. But all this they shall do to you because of my name, Yahuwah. Yahuwah. Hear the breath? Because they do not know him. They do not know the Father who breathed the word and caused it to become made flesh and filled it with the full of himself bodily. No one has greater love than this. That was the whole point of this whole thing. Are we willing to lay down our life for our friends? And even we can't die for anybody's sin, so it's not in that respect. But no one has greater love from this. He is the head of the army. He is the first fruits. We will be first fruits after him. No one has greater love than this, that he should lay down his life for his friends. It's the ultimate sacrifice of war. It's likened to this. And I'd like to, this was a beautiful thing that I ran into a few weeks ago. Thank you, Jay. We had this wonderful talk about this. So when there's a war here on the earth, and there's a bomb, and one of the army throws himself on the bomb, he sacrificed his life for his friends. Yahusha was the ultimate sacrifice. Do a word search on that word friend and trace it back. See that he's not the shepherd of the sheep that feeds you. He's the ultimate sacrifice. And even here on the earth, we see that those who give the ultimate sacrifice receive, Stephanie, a purple heart. Are we willing to lay down our life for our friends? Not that we can give them salvation. Are we willing to lay it all down for those that we would feed, the sheep that we would feed? Yeah, I'm talking to myself right now. Are we willing? Do we have the commands and the words and the teaching, the blue and the testimony of Yahushua Messiah and who it was that shed his blood that make the purple? He was the ultimate sacrifice of the war, that we might come back into the order of the King of Righteousness and get out of the temporary priesthood that stands under Aaron. It's not that the Sadducees and the Pharisees didn't know what was in there in the Old Testament, in the Torah and the commands, but they taught it all wrong. They added to it and they took away. And they couldn't even see him for who he was when he was here. And they weren't the only ones. John 11. $17, I guess. Oh my. We're going to take a break here. I gotta get some coffee and I'll be back. Okay. Good break. Except for I left my coffee sitting in there. Good grief. Imagine that. Okay. I guess we'll drink juice for a little bit. I'm not sure why I'm here as opposed to... I feel like this slide is out of order. I know it's out of order. So let's go to 2 Corinthians 5. We'll come back to that. Hopefully I won't forget. That's not in the right order. (13) Oh, 1 Corinthians won't do it. For whether we are beside ourselves. How many people think we're out of our wits? It is for Elohim. I don't care what they think. I do not care. I do not care. Or whether we are of sound mind. It is for you. Why? Because the people that think you're nuts, the ones that got a sound mind with you, know that you ain't nuts. It's not, if they hear it, great. If they don't, pray. How about that? Some will think you're insane for Elohim. But like I said, when you're with people that are of the same mind, are of the like mind, following the commands of Yah, dying to ourselves, fighting this war, it's totally sane. The carnal mind cannot have the knowledge of spiritual things. It is impossible. For the love of Messiah compels us, having judged this, that if one died for all, then all died. And he died for all those that would come to him and follow the word, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised. There is no greater love than this, that you should lay down your life for your friends. Did you die in the immersion to the old nature? Of course. We're no longer living for ourselves. You thought it was, if we thought it was war before, it ain't nothing. That was nothing. We weren't even at war out there before we were immersed. And now we're no longer to live for ourselves. Now the game's afoot, per se. If one died for all, then all died. All those that would come to him. Are we willing to lay down our life? He's won the war. He's already won the war. All we have to do is endure and fight the good fight. And Revelation 1, 17 to 18. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. Wasn't that interesting? Like he's dead. Dead to himself. And he placed his right hand. What? He placed his right hand on me, saying, do not be afraid. I am the first to the last. I am the living one. I became dead, And see, I am living forever and ever because he rose. And if one died, all died. And if he rose, we should rose. And what he taught, that was the leaven of the kingdom, caused the bread to rise, the bread of life. He is the living one. He is living forever and ever. He showed us how to become dead to everything in the flesh. He possesses the keys of Sheol and death, of the grave and death. That those who would rise from the dust would rise. He's overcome death. Eternal death. He's overcome death for you to be raised to life. He was never gonna be dead in any respect. It's all for the love of his bride. Matthew 26, 26 to 27. No, that's not the right way. And as they were eating, Yahusha took bread. Leavened bread. And having blessed, broke. And I've got a trace back down there in the polyglot and in the Hebrew New Testament that broken doesn't go to a crisp breaking, it goes to a tearing of the bread. And having blessed, broke, split it, and gave it to the taught ones. Those, it would be the foundation stones, save Judas Iscariot. And said, take, eat, this is my body. The Word is his body. The Word was made flesh. Yahusha was crucified on the stake and showed us in the flesh, in this body, the fullness of Elohim bodily, for the love of his bride, how to walk out the commands and follow the teaching, the leaven of the kingdom, properly. Why was this bread leavened? Because the word's going to rise. It's not going to return void. The word rises. That's your blue. And taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you, the fruit of the vine. He is my strength and my song. Drink from it, all of you, the red, the blood, the fruit of the vine. For this is my blood, that of the renewed covenant, the marriage covenant, to come back in, to go to the mount, to be with the King of Kings. Oh my goodness. His taught ones are the priesthood. For this is my blood, that of the renewed covenant, which is shed for many, for the forgiveness of sins. And the blue and the red make purple. It's royalty. Mark 14, 22 to 25. It's just another rendition of it. And as they were eating, Yahuwah who came to save us, took the bread with the leaven. That, of course, would have been a picture of the grain, the first fruit, being mixed with the pureness of the water of the word, having the leaven of the kingdom mixed into us, having blessed, broke it, tore it, split it, and gave it to them and said, take, eat. This is my body. What are we eating? Every proceeding that comes from the mouth of Yahuwah, the blue. And take the cup, giving thanks. He gave it to them, and they drank from it. And he said to them, this is my blood, the blood of the renewed covenant. to come back into the marriage with the Melchizedek, with the King of Righteousness, which is shed for many. Because the inheritance of the priesthood is Yahuwah. Truly, truly, I say to you, I shall certainly no more drink of the fruit of the vine till that day when I will drink it anew in the reign of Elohim. And where do we see a picture of this? Genesis 14. (17) And after his return from the striking of Chedorlaomer, the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sodom, came out to meet him at the valley of Shawah, that is, the sovereign's valley. Here we are in the king's valley. The king of Sodom, king of righteousness. And Melchizedek, sovereign of Shalom. The king of righteousness is the sovereign of peace. There is wartime and there is peacetime. They just got done having a war. He's a sovereign of peace. Not that he's not at war. It's all a picture. When the war's over, guess what? We're going to rest. And not that we can't have rest and peace now. It's Shabbat today. Of course we can. He's not only the leader of the commander and the commander of the army, Yahuwah Zevaot, he's also the king of righteousness and of peace. Brought out bread and wine. What a picture. Look here, there's another priesthood. Look here. It always was. He was always the king of righteousness. He was the high priest that sacrificed in the garden. He is the master of master. He is the greatest prophet that planted the seed in the earth. He brought out bread and wine, blue and red, make purple. Now he was the priest. Who was the priest? Abraham. We already know the king of righteousness was the sovereign of peace of the Most High El. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abraham of the Most High El, because he was priest of the Most High El. Some would say he was being made a priest right here. Okay, I can go with that. Possessor, who is this Most High El? This king of righteousness? I mean, he appeared to Abraham, I don't remember which chapter it is, when he came and they came with the two others and they ate bread and drank milk or whatever they did. He's been here. He can come again. He can be everywhere at once. He is everywhere at once. There doesn't have to be one in the Shemayim and one on the earth. He's everywhere. If he's not, we're in trouble. If he can't be more than one place at a time, wrapped in flesh, if he needs to be, the fullness thereof in perfection, and sitting on the throne, if he can't be up there and down here, we got a problem. Because there's only one Chi. One. Possessor of heavens and earth. He owns it all. Why can't he be in both places at once? He's not like you and me. And blessed be the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him 1/10 of all. And the sovereign of Sodom said to Abraham, give me the people and take the goods for yourself. What? Give me the people. Are we willing to lay down our lives for our friends and for the people of Yahushua Messiah and those that would come in and say, Abraham said, I have lifted my hand to Yahuwah, the Most High El, the possessor of heaven and earth, not to take a thread or a sandal strap or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abraham rich. Our treasures are stored up in the Shemayim. We don't need nothing from him. I mean, do we live in this world and we're not of it? Yes. We need to eat the bread, eat the flesh, drink the wine, drink the blood, and be in the renewed marriage covenant of the Melchizedek. Because he died and he rose for the love of his bride. He is the ultimate sacrifice of war. Except only what the young men have eaten, the portion of the men who went with me, and these right here, let them take their portion. Okay, now we're going to go back to John 11, 17 to 44. Just a minute. I guess not. All right. Well, guess what? We're going to start at verse 1. And a certain one was sick, Eleazar, which means El is my help. El helps. Who's sick? We're sick. Anybody says that they have not sinned? Truth is not in him and they're a liar. Because all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of Elohim because we've listened to another word. Some doctrine has come in and we've followed that. Whether it was before we were immersed or after we were immersed. From Bethaniah, the village of Miriam and her sister Martha. Now it was Miriam who anointed the master with her perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, because his walk was in perfection, because he was the Word made flesh, and that which he walked out was in perfection. Whose brother Eleazar was sick. Now we can see this is a family here. It's a picture of the Mishpachah. Therefore the sisters sent to him, saying, Master, see, he whom you love, no greater love than this, that one should lay down his life for his friends, for those that he would feed. Are we feeding on that word? Are we feeding on that flesh that walked it out in perfection? He whom you love is sick. He wants nothing more than for us to be walking in the truth. We are all got some sin sickness going on. But when Yahusha heard, he said, This sickness is not unto death, eternal death, but for the esteem of Elohim, so that because he's going to rise, because the esteem of Elohim, but it's for the esteem of Elohim. So the seed which he planted in the earth, the seed of Elohim that was planted in the earth, the word, by following it and obeying it, that Elohim might be esteemed. The word would be esteemed. That's why his feet were anointed, because he walked it out in perfection. This is a picture of the Mishpachah. I can't believe what we're reading. And Yahusha loved Martha and her sister, and Eleazar, those who he will help, and they will also rise in the first resurrection. Because they love him, and he loves them. The Mishpachah. Therefore, when he heard that he was sick, then he indeed stayed at the place where he was 2 more days. Then after this he said to his taught ones, "Let us go back to Yehuda." Do what? And the taught ones said to him, "Rab, the Yehudim were but now seeking to stone you, and you are going back there?" I know this isn't the time that he died, but he didn't love his life unto death. Granted, his time had not come. A picture of us not loving our lives unto death. Yahusha answered, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him." He said this, and after that he said to them, "Our friend," our who? Our friend Eleazar. Do we love those that we feed, that we would lay down our life for them? Not unto salvation again like Yahusha. Our friend Eleazar has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up. Some will sleep and some will rise in the first resurrection. Therefore the taught one said to him, "Master, if he has fallen asleep, he shall recover." Can we hear? Do we hear what the Master is saying? Is the Ruach HaKodesh, the wind of Yahuwah, the breath of Elohim, speaking to us what it means in here? But Yahusha had spoken about his death, whereas they thought that he spoke of taking rest in sleep. So then Yahusha said to them plainly, "Eleazar, our friend, whom I love, whom we love, whom is part of the Mishpachah, has died. And for your sake, I'm glad I was not there." Well, that's a hard word. "In order for you to believe. But let us go to him." Yahuwah is going to come and rescue and help to see these ones to see that there is a resurrection, a first resurrection. "I am the resurrection and the life, and he who believes in me shall never die," he says. Toma, who is called the twin, quite the character, eh? Then said to his fellow taught ones, "See? Let us also go so that we die with him." Are we willing to lay down our lives for the Mishpachah? Therefore, when Yahusha arrived, he found that he had already been 4 days in the tomb. Now, which is more than 3. Now Bethaniah was near Jerusalem, about 15 stadia away. And many of the Yehudim had come to Martha and Miriam to comfort them concerning their brother. Martha then, when she heard that Yahusha was coming, met him, but Miriam was sitting in the house. The bride needs to hear that the redemption is coming, that there is salvation. She needs to hear it. Will we lay down our life for our friends so that they too can know there is a living hope in Yahuwah Elohim? Martha then said to Yahusha, "Master, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you might ask of Elohim, Elohim shall give you." Yahusha said to her, "Your brother shall rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day." So she knew there was a resurrection in the last day. But did they know about? She knew there was a resurrection in the last day. And everyone, so she knows about the second resurrection. And everyone that is living and believing in me shall never die at all. Do you believe this? There is a resurrection. In which we will be at the feet of the Melchizedek. Yahusha said to her. So she was talking. Yahusha said to her, I am the resurrection and... Oh, I didn't even know that was there. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he dies, shall live. So this shows there are two resurrections. Because if we believe and fight the good fight, pleasing the Master as soldiers in his army, though we die, we shall live. These are the taught ones, and those of the Mishpachah that would rise in the first resurrection he is speaking of here. And everyone that is living and believing in me shall never die at all, eternally. There are some that will be alive when he comes, and they shall go up with him, the truth, after those that have died, into the land. First resurrection. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Master, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of Elohim, who is coming into the world. And he's going to come again. For those that believe in him, that shall live and not die. Because the second death has no power over those that are in the first resurrection. There are those that will rise into a life, and it will be guaranteed for those who are in the first resurrection. And having said this, she went away and called her sister Miriam secretly, saying, The teacher is here and calls you. The teacher is here and calls you. Are we following those teachings? The leaven of the kingdom. Are we following those teachings? When she heard, unto obedience. They're all kneaded into the bread together. The water, the leaven, the oil, sometimes the teachings it's all kneaded in there together to make that perfect loaf that rises. When she heard, she rose up quickly and came to him. And Yahusha had not yet come into the village, but was in the place where Martha met him. Therefore the Yehudim who were with her in the house, and were comforting her when they saw that Miriam rose up quickly and went out, followed her, saying, She is going to the tomb to weep there. Miriam therefore, when she came where Yahusha was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet. The feet she had anointed. She knew his walk was perfect. Master, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Yahusha, therefore, the Mishpachah is going to rise in the first resurrection. The true Mishpachah that are built on the cornerstone. Yahusha, therefore, when he saw her weeping, and the Yehudim who came with her weeping, he groaned in his spirit, and he was troubled. And said, Where have you laid him? And they said to him, Master, come and see. And Yahusha wept. Why? For the love of his bride. And because he was about to show them that they would rise in the first resurrection unto life, because he was the resurrection and the life. The Yehudim therefore said, See how he loved him? And some of them said, Was this the one who opened the eyes of the blind? What? Like the pot calling, see how he loved him? But some of them said, right here, Was this the one that opened the eyes of the blind, not also able to prevent this one from dying? He's going to cause him to show them the picture to rising to eternal life in the first resurrection. And these guys can't see it. Yahusha, therefore, again groaning in himself. All earth groans out. I don't know if that's the same word in the Greek or not. Came to the tomb. All creation. Now it was a cave, and a stone was laying against it. Yahusha said, "Take away the stone." Sounds like some other time we heard. Stone was rolled away. And he was risen. Yahusha, take away the stone. There are some that are going to rise after him. Martha, the sister of him who had died, said to him, "Master, already he smells, for it is 4 days." Yahusha said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you shall see the esteem of Elohim? Those who rise at the first resurrection from the ground will see the esteem of Elohim. They will be made like him." Elohim esteems his bride. Does a husband not esteem her bride and a bride her husband? It's all a picture. This is the first picture of the first resurrection of the Mishpachah, where the bride will come from. And one of them anointed his feet. Eleazar means El helps, El's helper. Are we allowing that? Do we see the perfection of his walk that was in the flesh, the body we are to eat, and the blood that he shed, the blue and the red that make purple? So they took away the stone where the dead man was laid. Oh, that's a picture of the captive being set free, huh? And Yahusha lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." Of course he hears his word. He spoke it. And when he said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Eleazar, those whom I have helped, those who I have come to deliver, those who have beseeched me for my help in their weakness, in their time of struggle, to lead them in the war, come out." And he who died came out, bound feet and hands with wrappings, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. And Yahusha said to them, "Loosen him and let him go." Get the grave clothes off. That is a picture of the first fruits after quote-unquote, the quote-unquote first fruit, rising. What a picture. What a picture for us today to know that because he has risen, we shall live eternally and we shall rise. First Thessalonians. All right, I got sunflower seeds in my hand, see? All right, I had to have a bite. Like I didn't sneak a bite when I took that break. Come on, don't tell no one now. Shh. 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 18. Now, brothers, we do not wish you to be ignorant. Right? Who wants those in the Mishpachah to be ignorant? Not. Yahusha groaned. He was giving them this understanding. He groaned for them. He groaned for the Mishpachah. He groaned for those that were built on the cornerstone. He was groaning for his bride. He was groaning for those he would rescue in the first resurrection, that they would come to the peace and the understanding and the knowledge of Yahusha Messiah, that they might come to that place of rest, that they might rise to life, that the second death would have no power over them. Now, brothers, we do not wish you to be ignorant concerning those who have fallen asleep. They ain't going to heaven. They ain't going to the Shemayim. Lest you be sad as others who have no expectation. They have no hope. Our hope is in Yahushua Messiah. Now, brothers, I read that. For if we believe, did he not tell her? If you believe, if you have been walking this out, do you believe? If we believe that Yahushua died and rose again, so also Elohim shall bring with him those who sleep in Yahushua Messiah. They're going to rise because they've been kneaded with the pure water of the word and the teaching of the leaven of the kingdom and the oil of being kings and priests and prophets under the King of Kings, the greatest prophet, and the high priest. He's going to bring those who sleep in him with him at the first resurrection. For this we say to you by the word of the Master, that we, the living who are left over at the coming of the Master, must be dead in the flesh at that time, having fought the good fight, shall in no way go before those who are asleep in Messiah. But we better be dead to this flesh, because the Master himself shall come down from the Shemayim with a shout, Yahuwah, who's coming to rescue us, with a shout on the clouds, existence himself, with the voice of a chief messenger. He is the chief messenger. There is no other head messenger. He is the Malki. And with the trumpet of Elohim, like the last trump, the seventh trump, and the dead in Messiah shall rise first to reign with him in the kingdom. Then we, the living who are left over, shall be caught away together with them in the clouds to meet the Master in the air. We are not having a rapture into heaven. We are going with the truth into the land. He is going to wipe out everything that is untrue with the sword of his mouth. 1 foot on the sea, 1 foot on the mount, Leviathan in the sea, Behemoth on the mount, and that twisted word ain't going to be no more, and that twisted teaching ain't going to be no more. And so shall we always be with the Master. Why? Because we've risen unto life, because the second death has no power over them that are in the first resurrection. Isaiah 52. Apparently we're going to do some word studies here. Got some red words. Awake. Well, we better get it up here before I start talking about it. Isaiah 52. Oh, this thing's going to be long. Isaiah 52. Awake. 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 1526 JV. Wake up. Wake up. Is the light of Messiah in us? Wake up. Don't be following the blind that are leading the blind because they don't have the proper teaching, the leaven of the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And even though they have the Torah and they know it back there, they got somebody they've added to, they've taken away, they've made their own stuff out of it. We need to talk the rest of the world too. Wake up. Because it's like the blind leading the blind. And they'll make you twice the son of Gehenna as they are. Hello? Wake up. And do what? Put on, clothe yourself in strength. Clothe yourself in your weapon. The light. Walk in the light as he is in the light. Walk in the word. Follow him as he walked for the love of his bride. His walk was in perfection. He is perfection. That's why she anointed his feet. Walk like he walked. Do we know and are we intimate with our weapon that will cause us to rise in the first resurrection unto life? Oh, Zion. Well, where are we going? Zion? Come on. Put on thy beautiful garments. Oh, Jerusalem. Oh, I wonder what that is. Oh, fruit. We got some fruit going on. Woo woo. That's interesting. Okay, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem. Coming down as a bride adorned for her husband. Wake up. We're going to go to Zion. And then be as a bride adorned for her husband, the new Jerusalem, the place where he puts his name. For henceforth thou shalt be... For no more do the uncircumcised nor the unclean come into you. Nothing unclean is coming in. Nothing. No lie, no divination, no twisted word, no leaven of another teaching, no dirty water. Nothing unclean is coming in. Shake yourself from the dust. The dust. Dust or ash. Shake yourself from the dust of the ground and arise. Cum in the first resurrection. To raise or rise up. Also in the sense of continuing or establishing something. Are we going to continue with him in eternal life? Cum, are we going to be risen as the stalk of grain? Are we risen as this grain, this stalk, that's been kneaded with the water of the word and anointed in some instances with his oil? Those that will be in the first resurrection will have the oil and the leaven of the teaching that teaches his word in its proper order. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Open the door. He opens the door. He's going to open the door for those. Come in, he tells the 5 wise virgins. And the 5 foolish virgins are shut out. Loose thyself. Do what need. Loose. Whatever you bind yourself here that is to of him, you shall bind yourself to in the Shemaim. And whatever you loosen yourself from here, opens the door for you. Loose yourself from the bondage. Arise. Do we want to arise in the first resurrection? Awake, awake. Awake. For thus says Yahuwah, oh, captive daughter of Zion. That's where we are today in dispersion. He wants to keep that yoke of bondage on us like nothing other. And his time is short, and we can see it. For thus says Yahuwah, you have been sold for naught, and you are redeemed not with silver, but with the blood of the one who died for all, because he laid down his life for his friends. Our strength is in the blue, and our redemption is in the red. Actually, it's in both of them put together. We're going to be royalty, or are we his bride? Are we the bride of the king? For thus are we kings and priests under him. For thus says the Master Yahuwah, at first my people went down into Mitzrayim to sojourn there, and Ashur oppressed them without cause. And now, what have I here, declares Yahuwah, that my people are taken away for naught? Those who rule over them make them wail, declares Yahuwah. We ain't seen nothing yet. Nothing. And my name is despised. His breath and that which he breathed and that whom he is despised continually all the day long. And those who hate that will hate us because they hated him. If they persecuted him, they will persecute us. Therefore, my people shall know my name. For I am the one who is speaking. See, it is I. It says, in that day we shall know his name. We know his name now. We know he's the breath. I think you've got your sentence a little bit wrong in there. It's out of order. How pleasant upon the mountain are the feet of him who brings good news. Whose feet was here that was the actual good news that was anointed? We just saw it. Pleasant are the feet of those who are on the mountains of him who brings the good news to his friends and would lay down his life for his friends, that brings the commands and the blood. Who brings good news, who proclaims deliverance, the Shah, who proclaims Yahusha, Yahusha, who came to deliver us, who says to Zion, your Elohim reigns. To those of the Mishpachah, your Elohim reigns. He reigns. That is our hope. It is not the hope that the world has. There's no expectation in the death when it happens. The expectation is in Yahusha. Elohim. The voice of your watchmen. Oh, we're going to look at that. Maybe. Verse 8. The voice of your watchmen. Thy watchmen. 1408 HV. To watch. Watches over an area. Watches over the Mishpachah. Watches over those that have been entrusted to him. They lift up their voice. It's the voice of war, teaching them the truth, causing the grain to be kneaded with the water, the pure water of the word, that which would cause them to be anointed with the oil, and the proper leaven, which is the teaching, which is the kingdom, the leaven of the kingdom. They shall lift up their voices, together they shout for joy, because eye to eye they see the return of Yahuwah to Zion. Is that what we're giving people hope in? Break forth into joy. Sing together, you waste places of Yerushalayim. For Yahuwah shall comfort his people. He shall redeem Yerushalayim, and in that day, during that millennial reign, it shall be a place where the truth reigns, where Elohim reigns, and she, when it's all said and done, shall be like a bride adorned for her husband with the living stones in that wall. Yahuwah shall lay bare his set-apart arm in the eyes of all the nations. And all the ends of the earth shall see the deliverance, the Shah, the Shua, because he is the Ish, he is the husband of battle. We are going to see Yahusha, Yahuwah, who came to rescue us. All the earth shall see the deliverance of Yahusha, our Elohim. Turn aside, wake up. Come out from there. Do not touch the unclean. The unclean what? The unclean word, the unclean teaching. Don't touch it. That's what it was in the beginning. Hey, you can do this. Let me twist the word a little bit, and this is the teaching I'm giving you. It's okay to do this because you're going to be like Elohim. Come out of her midst. Be clean. Because we just saw nothing unclean is going in. What's that up here? For no more do the uncircumcised and the unclean come to you. Be clean, you who bear the vessels of Yahuwah. Not only are we a vessel, but there are other vessels. For you shall not come out in haste, nor go in flight, for Yahuwah is going before you. And the Elohim of Yisrael, is your rear guard. Verse 12. Right? Let's try it again. 52:12. Let's look at that. 1339 CV. Gather. He is your gatherer. He is gathering you in the first resurrection. The gathering together of a group into a bowl, an assembly of people in a place. The mishpachah that he has laid his life down because he was the ultimate sacrifice that laid down his life for his friends. We see here, this comes from the action to gather. The concrete is the lip. This is where we get our pure language. He is gathering you together by that which is pure and holy and righteous, and wanting us to learn how it is and be taught in the proper order that it is supposed to be in. He is our gatherer by everything from the L to the Ta that's being taught in its proper order. See, my servant shall work wisely. He shall be exalted and lifted up and very high. Who is that? We're going to be risen after him? It said so. Was it Timothy said so? As many were astonished at you, so the disfigurement beyond any man's, and his form beyond the sons of men. He shall likewise startle many nations. Sovereigns shut their mouths at him. Yeah, they're going to shut their mouth. You believe that? I don't care how much counsel they take against him in Psalm 2. There will be a day when their mouth and that nasty lying word that comes out of it will be shut. In the camp and out of the camp. For what had not been recounted to them they shall see, and what they had not heard they shall understand. Oh, maybe that's the next slide. Yay. Revelation 14. I think there's 3 more slides. One of them's long. Revelation 14. Arise, arise, wake up. And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion. He would be the chief messenger. He would be the one in chapter 10 of Revelation that puts 1 foot on the mount and 1 foot in the sea. And with him 144,000 of the first resurrection, having Yahuwah written upon their foreheads, like frontlets between their eyes. And I heard a voice out of the Shemaim, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of a loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. And they sang a renewed song, the song that's in 1 Chronicles 16, when David brought the ark into the city, before the throne, and before the 4 living creatures and the elders. And no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. Those who were redeemed by Yahushua Messiah to be kings and priests, to go back into the marriage covenant for the love of his bride. He laid down his life for these people. And those that would come in the second resurrection as well. They are those who were not defiled with women, for they are maidens. They are not defiled with the whore. They are those following the Lamb wherever he leads. They are the bride. They were redeemed from among men, being first fruits. They rose to Elohim, and even also the Lamb. He's one in the same. They were raised as first fruits to Elohim. And in their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Elohim, spotlessly and blamelessly pursuing righteousness and peace and meekness and belief They are blameless before the throne of Elohim. They're not twisting the word. They're not twisting how it's taught. Leviticus 23:15. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths. This is when they are supposed to be at the mount. This is Shavuot. This is when they should have received the commands. This is the day that the Ruach HaKodesh came in Acts 2. What did they do there? There was noise of singing and there was dancing in the camp, not a noise of war to fight for Yahuwah Elohim to be his bride, because he came to rescue them straight out of Egypt, the Red Sea being the anti-type, or being the type of immersion, not because of that. They were singing and a-dancing. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days, then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahuwah. Bring from your dwellings for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread, of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. They are baked with leaven, first fruits unto Yahuwah. He already knows what's going to happen. Why would he have them bake 2 loaves of bread? 1 for each of the quote-unquote kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, because Judah is listed as being in the first resurrection. They will be first fruits unto Yahuwah if they come out. He's not going to say to some supposed Judah, some leaven of the Sadducees and Pharisees, oh, you didn't teach about me. Oh, yeah, you added extra commands. You took some away. You made your own stuff up. You had a party with the anti-Messiah, as a matter of fact. Come on in. It ain't happening. There are 2 loaves of bread that they brought for an offering. Risen bread, made with leaven. The leaven of the kingdom is a picture of. Exodus 34:22. And perform the festival of Shavuot for yourself, for the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. Okay. The original ones came out at the time of the barley harvest. Again, I already went over about the barley harvest, and it doesn't set the time. Barley can't set the time. The harvest does not set the time. The sun coming out of his chambers like a bridegroom sets the time. And the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year, which gathers everything in, all of it. He's already fulfilled the first feasts. We're on to the fall feasts now, because the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And we're going to look at that in just a minute. But this was the first fruits of the wheat harvest. Why did he already know that those who came out during the barley harvest, they weren't going to make it? They were at the mount and they were not ready, obviously. Okay? And they were baked with leaven. Luke 13:20 and 21. And again he said, to what shall I compare the reign of Elohim? It is like the leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour until it all was leavened. It can't be wickedness always. It can't be sin. We've got the leaven of the kingdom and the leaven of the Sadducees and Pharisees. What is it? One's going to cause you to rise to life, and one's going to cause you to rise to death. It's just that simple. John 6. This is the long one. We're going to read it. I'm going to read it. John 6. After he got done telling them that if the Sadducees and the Pharisees and all those around didn't believe in Moshe's writings, how were they going to believe him? This is where he continues on. After this, Yahusha went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, that is, Lake Kinnereth. Oh yeah, we're not going to read all of it. Okay. And a large crowd was following him because they saw his signs, which he did on those who were sick. There are some that seek for a sign, but they saw it, which he did on those who were sick. So are we following him? Not because he can do something, but because we need healing from the sickness that is inside of us. That which has come from a twisted word which started out in the garden. And Yahusha went up on a mountain, and he sat there with his taught ones. Well, isn't that a picture? We're going to be on the mountain with him as his taught ones in the first resurrection. Do I know what mount this was? No. It's a picture. And the Pesach was near, the festival of the Yehudim, because the 10 northern tribes were scattered at the time. Then Yahusha, lifting up his eyes and seeing a large crowd coming toward him, said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for them to eat? You cannot buy the gift of Elohim." Okay? It is impossible. And this he said, trying him, for he himself knew what he would do. Yahusha already knew what he was going to do. Why? Because he knew it all. He knows it all. No one had to tell him about himself because he knew each one of them. How did he? Because Yah's all-knowing. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, for every one of them to receive even a little. One of his taught ones, Andrew, the brother of Shimon Kepha, said to him, "Here is a boy from a child, who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish." Those that came out in the barley harvest, at the time of the barley harvest, were headed for the mount. They were headed for the marriage. Did he know they weren't going to make it? Yes. It's a picture. And 2 fish. But what are these for so many? And Yahusha said, "Make the people sit down." That is a picture of sitting and dwelling with him, like maybe in marriage. Now there was much grass in the place, and the men, numbering about 5,000, sat down. And Yahusha took the loaves, and having given thanks, he distributed them to the taught ones, and the taught ones to those sitting down, and the same with the fish, as much as they wished. And when they were filled, he said to his taught ones, "Gather the broken pieces that are left over, so that none gets wasted." So what happened at the time when those who came out during the time of that harvest, when the barley and the other things would have been harvested that time of year, was an example that was written aforetime for us to learn from. That's what Scripture says. All that is written aforetime is for us to learn from, for us to feed on. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with broken pieces of the 5 barley loaves which are left over by those who had eaten. Who is eating that which was written aforetime for our instruction, for our encouragement, to show us what teachings to follow and what instructions not to follow? Who's feeding on those? The 5 wise virgins. That's why there were 5 loaves, so that the 5 wise virgins could be feeding on that which was written aforetime, not to do it again, and to see the truth of what they should be following, the Torah in the Torah as laid out. Because when did that take place? At the mount. At the foot of the mount, when he gave the marriage covenant, the 5 wise virgins are going to go in the door with the bridegroom. We need to know what was done and what not was done. At that time, the 5 wise virgins are feeding on that which was written aforetime. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets. Well, 2 fish. Why? Because there's 2 houses, northern and southern kingdom. It's just another picture. Why were there 12 baskets? Because everyone from the tribes who would come and be with Israel, whether they were sojourners or not sojourners, can feed on this. They can feed on that which was written aforetime. Then the men, having seen the sign that Yahusha did, said, "This is truly the prophet who is coming into the world." No kidding. Really? He's the seed, the greatest prophet that planted the seed in the earth. He is the seed that was planted in the earth in its perfect and proper order. He is the water that's mixed in with the grain, that when you add the oil and you put the leaven in of the correct teaching, he is the greatest prophet. Then Yahusha, knowing that they were about to come and seize him, that they might make him sovereign, he's already the sovereign, but he's not the sovereign of this here. I mean, I know the earth is his and the fullness thereof. But this is not his kingdom with this sinful, unclean, uncircumcised in it. This is not his kingdom. We seek for another homeland. Withdrew again to the mountain to be alone by himself. Everybody and their crazy ideas. And when evening came, his taught ones went down to the sea. Oh, we're going to skip down to verse. This is they go over in the boat, and that's a whole nother deal. We're going to skip down to 25. Having found him on the other side of the sea that they crossed, they said to him, "Rob, when did you come here?" Yahusha answered them and said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you seek me not because you saw signs, but because you ate the loaves of bread and were satisfied. That which was written aforetime, which is the word himself in his pure and perfect and proper order, it'll satisfy. Not like physical bread, but it will satisfy. Do not labor for food that is perishing." Well, what the horse trying to feed you going to perish. What the tares, what the wolves in sheep's clothing are trying to feed you is going to perish. It might rise, but it's going to rise to death. But for the food that is remaining, the food that gives life, that which will rise unto life, remaining to everlasting life, right? Which the Son of Adam, the seed that was planted in the earth, shall give you. For the Father, Elohim, has set his seal on his word which he breathed, and he's giving that to us to feed on. It was his body, the blue, drink his blood, the red, and that makes purple, to bring us in to be the bride, to be the kings and the priests. And they said to him, "What should we do to work the works of Elohim?" Yahusha answered and said to them, "This is the work of Elohim, that you believe in him whom he sent." Oh yeah, I believe him. And then you can just go and do what you want? No. You have to follow that which he instructed and believe in the blood which he shed. We have to have the testimony of Yahusha Messiah and be following his commands. We need to feed on that which was from aforetime so that we can be at the mount, and this time we will be in the marriage. We will be the bride, the marriage to the Lamb. The bridegroom that's going to take us in. There's going to be 5 that are shut out. They were at the door. They must have had some leaven mixed in there that was not of the kingdom. No, we need to work it out. So they said to him, Yahusha answered and said to them, "This is the work of Elohim, that you believe in him whom he sent." So they said to him, "What sign then will you do so that we see and believe you?" What would you do? Like he hadn't done enough. Our fathers ate manna in the wilderness, as it has been written, he gave them bread out of the Shemaim to eat. Therefore Yahushua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, Moshe did not give you the bread out of the Shemaim. Which manna means, what is it? They didn't even know what it was. But my Father, they still don't know what it is. They're looking at it. But my Father gives you the true bread out of the Shemaim, because now the true bread was here. Him wrapped in the flesh, the fullness of Elohim bodily that would be nailed to the stake and rise for us so that we could rise and live with him as first fruits in the resurrection. He's given it to them. It's there. They can't see it. For the bread of Elohim is he who comes down out of the Shemaim and gives life to the world. Are you going to have life in him now? Of course. But really, we should be more concerned about life eternal. And the word that came down does not return void. It goes back up. Do we have that in us that's going to be burned up like wood and hay and stubble? So they said to him, Master, give us this bread always. And Yahushua said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not get hungry at all, and he who believes in me shall not get thirsty at all, because he is the bread that rose, and he is the living water that comes out from underneath the throne, and we can be those that are raised as first fruits after him at the mount. If we believe in him, if we believe in the word, and believe is an action again, and we follow him in our walk, he is the bread that will rise. But I said to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. They still don't believe. All that the Father gives me shall come to me. In that day it shall all that which has been obedient to the word, which he walked out in perfection, the fullness of Elohim bodily, the word that did not return void, it shall all come to the Father. I can't remember where that's at in Revelation, but all that's set apart comes to him. Nothing unclean, nothing uncircumcised. And the one who comes to me I shall by no means cast out. Are we coming to him? Because I have come down out of the Shemaim, not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. The desire of that which he breathed and being obedient to the word is the desire of the Father. The two walk hand in hand. They can't be different from each other. This is the desire of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me I should not lose of it, but should raise in the last day. Are we going to rise unto life? Are we going to rise unto him? Are we running the race in vain? Are we going to rise to the kingdom? Or will we rise to eternal death? We want to rise in the first resurrection so that we're guaranteed that place at the mount as his bride. And this is the desire of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the seed that was planted in the earth, the word which he breathed, Elohim wrapped in the flesh, followed it perfectly, and believes in him should possess everlasting life. Because the second resurrection has no power over him. And I shall raise him up in the last day. Some shall be risen up in the first resurrection, and some shall be risen up on the last day. Some to death, some to life. And that's when the marriage is going to take place. Kings and priests during the reign, and then come the rest at the end, and that's when the marriage takes place. Guaranteed that spot. Therefore, the Yehudim were grumbling against him. Imagine that. Because he said, I am the bread which came down out of the Shemaim. They still couldn't see it. And guess what? They don't see it today. I'm not even talking. They don't even see it. People think we're nuts. I think I read that. We're out of our minds, of wits. The only ones that know that we have a sound mind are those that understand and can see and believe and are walking it out. And they said, is this not Yahusha, the son of Yosef, whose father and mother we know? How then is it that he says, I have come down from the Shemayim? Because the carnal mind cannot perceive the things of the spiritual. They got no idea. Then Yahusha answered and said to them, do not grumble with one another. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. And I shall raise him up in the last day. Are we being drawn? We have to be drawn. He chooses. What do we want? But we have a choice all the time. Doesn't negate the fact we still keep doing what needs to be done according to the teaching, according to the leaven of the kingdom and the washing of the water of the word. Doesn't mean we don't continue to receive all of that in order to grow up to be full, mature stalks of wheat. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall be taught by Yahuwah. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned, who's right there, the fullness of Elohim bodily, comes to be obedient to the word, to me, he says, because he is the word. Now, not that anyone has seen the Father, not in his fullness. Of course not. You'd die. Abraham saw him. Samson's mama saw him. Samson's dad saw him too. Except he who is from Elohim, he has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life, because he shall rise, because he is the bread of life. He was the first fruits of the first fruits that will rise, because one died for all. This is the bread which comes down out of the Shemayim, so that anyone might eat of it and not die. Are we eating of that pure and perfect bread? I am the living bread, which came down out of the heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he shall live forever. Because we're going to rise. Because he rose. Because without him rising first, we can't rise. Are we eating of that? And indeed, the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world. He was the Word made flesh. For the love of his bride. Killed the flesh. Showed us how to overcome sin. That other word, that other teaching, he died to it, even as the enemy brought it to him. Even when he said to Peter, get behind me, Hasatan, that was in the house. That was amongst the taught ones. The Yehudim, therefore, were striving with one another, saying, how is this one able to give us his flesh to eat? Because the carnal mind cannot discern spiritual things. Yahusha therefore said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the son of Adam and drink his blood, you possess no life in yourselves. Unless you follow the commands and eat from that which he has laid out, the instructions, that bread, and drink the blood, have the testimony of Yahusha Messiah, there's no life in you. There's no life in anyone without that. You might think you're living the life here, but we ain't living the life eternal. For my flesh is truly food, and my blood is truly drink. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood stays in me, and I in him, because his love stays in us if we stay in his word. As the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who feeds on me shall live because of me. They shall rise. This is the bread which came down out of the Shemayim. Not as your fathers ate manna and died, he who eats this bread shall live forever. He said this in the congregation teaching in Capharnaum. Interesting study. Therefore, many of his taught ones, having heard, said, "This word is hard. Who is able to hear it?" Because they couldn't hear it with their carnal minds. But Yahusha, knowing within himself that his taught ones were grumbling about this, said to them, "Does this make you stumble? Are we going to stumble on that? Of course not. What if you see the house's seed that was planted in the earth, going up where he was before? Because the word does not return void." He came down from the Shemaim, and he's going back to the Shemaim. And if the word is in us, if we have the fullness of the word worked through us, the teaching of the leaven of the kingdom, it's teaching the word, everything in its proper order that will cause us to be anointed, like those 11 loaves of wheat at the mount, we shall rise. What we have done shall not return void. Am I saying we're the word? Of course not. It is the Spirit that gives life. The flesh profits not at all. No, duh. The words that I speak to you are spirit and are life. There are some of you, because the carnal mind cannot understand spiritual matters that will bring them to eternal life. Their spirit and their life, the word. But there are some of you who do not believe. For Yahusha knew from the beginning who they were who did not believe, because he's all-knowing, and who would deliver him up. And he said, "Because of this, I have said to you that no one is able to come to me unless it has been given to him by my Father." You can't follow the word unless it's revealed to you by Yah. So is that our desire? Is that what we beseech him for? Look around. How many are beseeching the true Yahuwah Elohim for that which he breathed? From then on, many of his taught ones withdrew and were not walking with him anymore. Really. Yahusha therefore said to the 12, "Do you also wish to go away?" Then Shimon Kepha, answering him, "Master, to whom shall we go? Where in the world are we going to go? Who are we going to believe? Who are we going to listen to?" Think about that in today's age. Just think about that. Who are you listening to? And what kind of psyop and false word and untrue instruction are they feeding? You possess the words of everlasting life. It's the only thing that's going to cause us to rise, is the word in its proper teaching, the proper teaching of it. And we have believed, and we know that you are the Messiah, the seed that was planted in the earth, the breath that was breathed from the mouth of El, which is the seed, which is the word, the living Elohim himself. Yahusha answered them, "Have I not chosen you, the 12? And one of you is the devil." They're using him. He was now speaking of Yehuda from Kerioth, the son of Shimon, for he, one of the 12, was about to deliver him up. It's a war. Are we feeding on that which was of before time? Are we having the testimony of Yahusha Messiah that we might rise, of the 5 wise virgins that will go into the chamber with the bridegroom? Watch that. Do it again. Are we? Are we going to be at the mount as the bride for the marriage? Matthew 16, last slide, Matthew 16, 5 to 12. And his taught ones came to the other side and forgotten to take bread. They forgot their bread. And Yahusha said to them, "Mind, discern this." Come on. And beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they reasoned, oh, they better overthrow those reasonings among themselves, saying, throw them thoughts captive, right? Because we brought no bread. But Yahusha, aware of this, said to them, O you of little belief, why do you reason among yourselves because you brought bread? Come on, get rid of that. Do you not still understand? Neither remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000 and how many baskets you picked up? We just went over it. Did they not remember? Did they not understand? Do we understand? Are the 7 loaves of the 4,000 and how many large baskets you picked up? That's for another day. How is it then that you do not understand that I did not speak to you concerning bread, to beware of the leaven of the Sadducees and the Pharisees? Don't receive a false teaching. Don't receive a false instructions. Then they understood that he did not say beware of the leaven of the bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. What leaven are we being leavened with? What is that teaching? What are we listening to? Even if it's of the word, even if it's out of the book. Is it in its proper order? Is it the leaven of the kingdom that's being worked through us? Revelation 6:6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, this, of course, is at the end. This, of course, is the horse, the 3rd seal, black horse, going to bring the famine. Got the pair of scales in his hand, kind of like a Libra. And I heard the voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, a measure of wheat for a denarius, and 3 measures of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. The wheat costs more. The wheat cost more. Those that will be at the mount in the first resurrection, because the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Those loaves that will rise to be the bride in the end are the chosen. Many are called. Doesn't mean there's not going to be those that represent a barley harvest in there. Not saying that. But many are called, and few are chosen. O small remnant, O little flock. Father, we just thank you, Yahuwah Elohim, that we can see, that we have a mind and a heart, and you as the authority inside of us that can discern spiritual matters, because the carnal mind does not discern spiritual matters. Father, draw us close to you, Father. Let us be fully feeding on that word, the teaching, the leaven of the kingdom, Yahuwah, that causes to follow your commands, and having the testimony of the blood of Yahushua Messiah, Yahuwah, who came to rescue us, that we might rise in that first resurrection, Yahuwah, that the second death would have no authority over us, Father, that we would be counted worthy to be the bride whom you love, whom you died for the love of your people and for the love of your bride. Hallelujah. In your name, Yahuwah, who came to rescue us. Hallelujah.